Kurt Bardella, who's worked with Republicans at every level of government. He even had a job at Breitbart. He wrote this in a USA Today op-ed, quote, "Roy Moore is the last straw. You can now call me a Democrat." Kurt Bardella joins me now. Kurt, really? You're a Democrat?
I sure am, Carol.
Really? You're pro-choice and everything?
I'm pro-choice. I believe in science and climate change. I think racial inequality needs to be addressed. I think that gun reform needs to happen in this country. And really what's going on in Alabama is symptomatic of the broader issues that I have personally with the Republican Party, which is when something happens that they don't like, they bury their head in the sand and try to avoid it, whether it's allegations of sexual misconduct and preying on teenagers at the mall, whether it is issues like gun reform. You know, we just had that mass shooting in Las Vegas at that country music show, which I was actually supposed to be at, by the way. And flash forward to where we are right now, and bump stocks are still available. They just passed legislation to make it easier to carry handguns on issue after issue.
Hold on for just a second, because your beliefs, the ones you enumerated at the beginning of this interview, some people might say you were never a Republican in the first place.
Well, I think when you look at what I've been doing for most of my professional life, working with people like Breitbart, Congressman Darrell Ison, the House Oversight Committee, investigating the Obama administration, I've worked with Republicans since I was 17 years old. And really the big change, though, was for the first time after that I left Breitbart 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to really speak for myself, to think about what I believe, to discover and learn about issues I'd never really taken the time to explore. And it's amazing, it's liberating, really, when you don't have to speak for somebody else, when you don't have to worry about someone else's election, how that's going to impact your own professional life. You have the freedom to pursue things that you care about. And that's really what started the change for me ideologically.
So are you saying when you worked for a publication like Breitbart, you felt sort of brainwashed?
Well, I would say I was their media consultant, and really it was watching how they changed and became a political action committee for Donald Trump, a propaganda vehicle for the type of hate that he represents, that got me thinking this is not what I want to be a part of. That's the reason why I resigned and left them in the first place. And it was that time that gave me the opportunity to start learning about other issues that really, as a Republican working on Capitol Hill, I just never was really exposed to differing viewpoints. It's very tribal, as you know.
Yes, I do know that, on both sides, as a matter of fact. I want to talk about Roy Moore, because you said that is the reason you switched. So I just interviewed 3 conservatives last hour who said, you know what, it's up to the people in Alabama. If they choose to believe these women, it is their right. They can vote however way they wish. So what's wrong with that?
Well, I think it's a cop-out. You know, it's a very convenient line to use when you don't want to talk about specific allegations, when you don't want to defend what his behavior has been, to say, well, I'm not going to weigh in on that. Let's let the people of Alabama decide. It's interesting because when it comes to policy making, when it comes to telling people what they should or shouldn't do with their bodies, what bathrooms they should use, who they should love, it all of a sudden becomes much broader. It's not about what people believe. It's about what type of ideology they want to impose on individuals. So there's a huge inconsistency. And again, it speaks to the constant Republican approach of burying their head in the sand and not wanting to deal with it, but also not wanting to have the consequences of supporting him either.
Well, let me ask you this, and I admire a great many Republican women. Nikki Haley would be one. But I'm just wondering, from your perspective, how the Republican Party, at its core, perceives women.
Well, I think their policies speak for themselves. Like, there is no Republican policy to try to improve paid family leave in this country, or maternity leave for women. When it comes to issues of just pay equity, they've opposed legislation, the Lilly Ledbetter's legislation from a couple years ago. They oppose any type of vehicle to ensure that we have equal pay for women in this country. When it just comes to the issue of pro-choice, pro-life, and telling women what they should or shouldn't do, and using the Bible to justify why they believe it's okay for them to tell women how they should go about dealing with medical health issues, on issue after issue, it's pretty clear where Republicans stand on women.
Well, there's an argument for everything that you have just said, right? It's concern for the unborn child, not so much for the woman, right? They want to save the child's life, and that's why many people are against abortion.
I love how they're so concerned with children, yet when there's a guy who's molesting and preying on children at a mall in Alabama, they want to put him in the United States Senate.
Well, they would say that happened a long time ago, and there's no real proof, right? There's no photographic proof. There's no audio proof. It's just this woman's word and the word of 30 others who corroborate their story, her story.
Yeah, and again, I think that the idea that there's going to be mountains of, I don't know a whole lot of sexual predators who walk around leaving a trail of evidence, and particularly 40 years ago when we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have mobile devices, we didn't have the same technology that we have now where you might be able to catch somebody in the act. I think that the Republican line of, well, it's his word versus hers, is ignoring the women who have come forward, and the proof that we've seen, at least, of Roy Moore certainly engaging socially and sending notes and messages to teenagers.
So, what do you suppose, like, are there I don't know, do you have any evidence there are a lot of Republicans who think like you, who would say that Roy Moore is the last straw for them?
You know, all I can say is, you know, since that piece in USA Today ran, and that was on Friday, just a few days ago, the reception that I've received, certainly, from Republicans and even Democrats as well, saying thank you for saying what you said. I think there are a lot of people who feel that way. They may not know how to articulate it. They may be concerned, certainly, here in Washington, D.C., what that might mean for their professional future. I mean, I'm very fortunate that my livelihood isn't at all dictated here by whether I'm Republican or Democrat. I don't work with any political party. I don't work with candidates. I don't work with any political action committee. So I have the professional and financial freedom to be able to make this decision and do so publicly. I know a lot of people don't have that luxury. They have, you know, a life to worry about. They have rent to make. They have kids they have to pay for their dentist. I mean, I very much understand and empathize with that. My hope is in that by speaking out and again, having the history I have of being a very, you know, highly associated with different Republican figures, that it helps make it easier for other people who might be feeling this way to know that they can come out and speak out too.
All right, Kurt Bardella, thanks so much for being with me.
Thank you for having me on, Carol.
You're welcome.